Welcome back to Mindful-ish. I'm Laura, mess of a human, licensed therapist and yoga instructor. This is my third video on my new YouTube channel, Mindful-ish, which is all about incorporating mindfulness, finding mental wellness, and enjoying movement while also accepting the fact that we are human and we need room to be messy, which is why I call it Mindful-ish. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about something I'd mentioned in the first video. So as my role as a therapist, which is basically my day job, I incorporate a lot of DBT. So today is going to be talking a little bit about what DBT is. It is basically skills training. So it's a form of therapy. It's a structured, skills-based, evidence-based treatment. I love it because it incorporates so much mindfulness and maybe even a little bit of mindful-ish, but it is a fantastic combination with yoga. So DBT stands for Dialectical Behavior Therapy. Like I said, it is a therapy treatment. Initially, it was created to treat borderline personality disorder, so individuals with high rates of suicidality. They've found over the years that it is beneficial for just about everyone because many of us, just day to day, it's a struggle sometimes to survive, to find meaning and purpose, and to be present in the moment. So dialectical behavior therapy incorporates a lot of Eastern philosophies, mindfulness. Yoga is such an important key component in my mind when it comes to mindfulness practice. So I wanted to just introduce how amazing this treatment is. It's impacted me in my own life in huge, huge ways. It was created by this woman, Marsha Linehan, and she kind of really saw the need for more mindfulness being incorporated into therapy treatments. So DBT is a behavioral therapy that incorporates a lot of mindfulness practice. And for me personally, learning to be more present in the moment is so, so important just for daily life, for relationships, to be able to regulate and recognize our own emotions. So I am so passionate about DBT, not only with clients. I work a lot with families and teens in group settings, but most importantly for me, it's how I incorporate it into my own life. So I wanted to kind of introduce what that looks like. In DBT, there are 4 sets of skills. There are mindfulness skills. So again, learning to be present and an active participant in your life experiences. There are skills for emotion regulation, learning to recognize and understand your emotions, just from a different perspective to kind of shift how we treat and experience our emotions. There is skills for distress tolerance, which is all about when we hit a crisis mode, how do we handle that to not potentially make things worse? And then finally, there's interpersonal effectiveness skills, which is really about how do we learn to assert and set boundaries, to say no effectively, to make requests. And again, to me, it's like the perfect kind of setup for overall life skills. The main portion that I'll be incorporating into a lot of my videos is the mindfulness skills. A big part of mindfulness is bodily awareness. So learning how to recognize what is happening with you internally. How are you experiencing emotions? Can you identify your emotions? Can you identify where in your body you feel and recognize those emotions? And yoga ties in perfectly to that because it's all about being in your body, recognizing and kind of breathing with the movement of your body. It allows you to slow down and fully recognize, what is my body telling me? What's it needing? Where am I holding tension? What could that represent emotionally? So DBT and yoga just go hand in hand, in my opinion. I will say that yes, I'm a therapist and I teach yoga. I don't know everything. I'm still learning. I'm still taking feedback from clients and life experiences to effectively apply this stuff. So I never claim to be a know-it-all. Again, I'm just human and I'm learning right along with you. So I think the real question is, how do we take these therapy treatments that have these, structured skill sets and manuals and worksheets and all the written material and actually find ways to apply it to real life. I think that is a huge, huge focus that I'm going to bring to the table with these videos. And partially I'm going to use myself as an example. So like I said, mindfulness is such a big portion of DBT. Mindfulness is all about just being fully present in the moment without judgment and with intention. That is such an important piece of it, being intentional about your experiences, remembering to ground yourself to what's happening now, because so much of the time we can get lost in our thoughts, in our worries, regrets from the past, worries about the future, and we forget to be in the here and the now. So mindfulness really is about being fully in your life experiences. Now, mindfulness can be done in different ways. So we've got this outward ability to observe our surroundings, the feeling of the breeze on our skin, the warmth of the sun on our face. So it can very much be an outward experience, but we can also have an internal mindfulness practice. What thoughts am I noticing coming into my mind? Can I identify emotions or sensations associated with different emotions? It's really this external, internal experience, and we get to make the decision to choose, where do I put my focus? What do I need to be doing in this moment to be fully present in my experiences? So mindfulness really is about just learning to be more active in your life, to be an active participant. And how do we do that? I think a lot of us struggle with, okay, I want to be more present, but how do I apply that and form it into steps that feel doable? So mindfulness, according to DBT and kind of in the DBT framework, is split into two sets of skills. So there's the what skills. So what am I doing when I'm practicing mindfulness? And then there are the how skills. How do I do those things? So what am I doing and how do I do them? So when it comes to the mindfulness what skills, we've got 3 skills. So the first is to observe, and I talked about that a little bit. Observing internally, observing externally, kind of being able to shift back and forth and notice your experiences in a new and kind of active, intentional way. So there's observing, there's describing, and describing is really about learning to put a label on your experience without judgment. So the important piece is, rather than automatically having some experience, like me sitting here right now, I could automatically say, oh, my back hurts, or oh gosh, I'm noticing tension in my shoulders. The goal is to describe our experiences without this automatic judgment, wanting to label things as good or bad, valuable, invaluable. The goal is to just observe and describe without this automatic adding value to something. So I can observe tension in my body without immediately describing it in this negative connotation. So with describing, it's all about practicing, labeling, describing our experiences without automatic judgment. So for instance, you could look at me and have many judgments. I mean, we all have judgments. It's a natural human response to experiences. The goal, though, is to really try to identify what can you observe and describe through your senses. So you cannot technically observe whether I'm a good or bad human, whether I meet some standard of beauty. I mean, beauty is subjective. So the idea is you can see that I have brown eyes, unless you're colorblind, and then that changes things a bit. You can see that I am a human being. So we're trying to get in this practice of describing, labeling experiences without this automatic judgment. It's tough because we are so built to judge in a way that does add value, which in many ways can be harmful to ourselves and other people. So again, learning with mindfulness to be present without judgment and with intention. So intentionally being aware without judgment. It's hard. It sounds easy, but it's tough. So we've got these mindfulness what skills? Observing through your senses, observing your internal experiences. We've got describing, learning to label your experiences without this automatic judgment this automatic need to add value to something. And then we've also got this what skill of participating. And that is a really tough one. It's very much about if you're at a party and you're standing against the wall watching the experience happening from afar, to somehow, some way, let go of whatever fear or apprehension you have and to be in the moment, to remind yourself that to be mindful, to be active in your life takes some risk. You have to be willing to take some risk. So when I do groups with teens and families, a lot of the time we are getting in front of one another and practicing skills together. And part of that is a risk, for teenagers especially. So it is about being an active participant, even though it's uncomfortable. And a lot of mindfulness is kind of learning to accept discomfort, learning to be comfortable or as comfortable as we can be with discomfort, because life is uncomfortable. Every day, every moment, we could easily identify some distress or pain or worry or discomfort, emotionally or physically. We've got to put a lot of effort into this mindfulness piece, into the intention of being an active participant in our life, our experiences without judgment. It is hard. It takes practice. And that's why DBT is skills training. It is a practice, just like yoga, just like, any hobby or skill that you learn, you have to practice. So the DBT mindfulness skills: observe, describe, participate. So it's basically like, what are you doing? First, you need to observe the experience, whether that's external or internal. Then you need to begin to label that experience. Begin to kind of identify, am I automatically judging? Am I adding value? Am I setting this expectation to where I could potentially be, let down, or it could affect my mood in some way? We're trying to detach from this automatic judgmental state that we so frequently just operate on. So observing, describing, and participating fully. Sounds easy, nice simple steps. I'll talk more kind of as we go and in different videos, breaking down each set of skills, giving examples, and how I apply it to my life. Just a quick example. So when it comes to observing experience, I've gotten in this habit of trying to just observe my breathing. So even when I make these videos, sometimes I'll notice I start to hold my breath, or maybe my breathing becomes more shallow. So just taking a moment to observe your breathing, not judging yourself for how you're breathing, but just observing and noticing your breathing pattern. Beginning to identify, describe, okay, I'm noticing I am breathing a little more shallow. Again, not beating ourselves up. And then participating fully in this experience of just slowing down the breath. It goes so far, and we don't give it enough credit. How much just learning to breathe in a more mindful way can affect our overall vibe, our emotional state, and our nervous system. So, mindfulness, what skills? The how skills are how we practice observing, how we practice describing, and how we practice participating. And the first how skill I talked a little bit about. It is non-judgmentalness. Again, easier said than done. Judging, it's a survival tool, right? It's this evolutionary trait that we have to survive. If I'm walking down a dark alley and someone is coming towards me, I do have to make, a judgment for my safety. So when we're kind of forced to make these calls for our own safety, that can look a little different. When we are meeting someone for the first time and are automatically judging them based on their appearance, their cultural background, that looks a little different. So we're trying to identify, okay, when is it effective to judge for my own safety and well-being versus when is judgment potentially harmful? And again, we'll talk more about this stuff as videos go on and I break these skills down. But it's a fantastic practice to get in this habit of recognizing, when am I making an assumption versus when am I observing and describing and experiencing life based on the facts, observable information. I cannot observe your emotions. I cannot observe what you think about me. It's just not possible. So if we can get in this habit of observing and describing in this non-judgmental way, what do you think? I mean, how do you think it affects relationships? How do you think it affects your experiences? I've had many teenagers that show up to DBT group with their family members, caregivers, and I can sense, I can't assume, but I'll call it out and say many of you all on your way here to group tonight may have thought, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go. I don't want to be here. And I asked them, how do you think those judgments affect the experience? Well, typically, not in the best way. So if we can catch ourselves when we're getting in this judgmental kind of perception, this judgmental way of thinking about things, we can step back from it and say, okay, what can I judge through my senses? What can I judge based on observable facts? So non-judgmentalness. Sometimes we need to judge for our own survival. Most of the time, we can practice catching ourselves in the moment when we are judging in a way that is potentially harmful or adding value or taking value away. So the how skills, non-judgmentalness. The second how skill is one mindfulness, which is all about just doing one thing in the moment. So no watching a movie and staring at your phone simultaneously. I think more and more we're starting to get in this frame of operating where it's like we're doing these multiple things at once. We recognize it's not very effective and we're not fully present in either activity, and yet it's just become so normalized. So the goal with one mindfulness is, can I just do one thing? If I'm washing dishes, observing the sensation, the smell, the bubbles, the warmth of the water, can I not judge the wet, disgusting food that my fingers touch? Can I step back and be in an experience without this need to be distracted by something else or to shift our focus to something else? If I'm having a conversation with someone, ensuring that I'm not, staring at my phone or my watch and making eye contact, being fully there with another human being. Again, that goes so far in our relationships and in making the other person see that we value them. We value our interactions. It's important, I think, as human beings to be as fully present as we can be. So one mindfulness, one thing in the moment. And how I mentioned focusing on my breathing. Sometimes even driving down the road, if I've gotten off work and I'm going home, even sometimes in silence, just bringing it back to my breathing, slowing down, observing kind of how is my breathing affecting my state of mind. One thing in the moment. And there is something so simple about just focusing on the inhale and the exhale. And that's why I love yoga. Breathing and movement paired together, it just feels so natural. So, one mindfulness. And finally, we have effectiveness. Effectiveness. Okay, what's that all about? That really ties more into, are we engaging in actions, behaviors every day that in some way align us with our values, our goals, our passions, the things that light our heart on fire? Many of us could spend 8 hours laying on the couch at home watching, binging Netflix. And for some of us, that might align with our values. For many of us, we recognize and we feel it in our core, deepest part of our soul that things are not aligned. There's inconsistencies. What I care about and what I want my life to look like does not match up with my daily behaviors and actions. And it doesn't have to be these huge things that we do. It can be something small. Sometimes for us, it's just getting our feet on the floor and leaving the house. Sometimes that is a huge accomplishment that gets us closer to maybe a goal or value of relationships, taking risks, learning to create a life worth living. And that brings me to the fact that that's really what DBT is about. It's about creating a life that is worth living, because I will say it myself. There are days when I think many of us wake up and it's hard to have hope. It's hard to feel like life has meaning. And I know many of us find meaning and purpose from all sorts of different avenues, and that's wonderful. But I think each and every one of us has these moments where it just feels impossible. And yet we keep going, we keep moving forward. And DBT skills, dialectical behavior therapy, mindfulness, however you want to word it, it's about creating a life that feels worth it. And finding small pleasures in things that maybe we typically take for granted. I just think it's so, so important to have tools, to have things in your back pocket, to remind yourself of, oh yes, okay, let me ground myself into the present. Let me do, kind of identifying my experiences through my senses, to really be here, to remind ourselves to be here, because damn, life goes fast. It's all about learning to ground yourself and to be more fully here. And I think we all want that and could benefit from that. I'm very much kind of in this mind frame that no therapy is perfect for everyone. No therapeutic approach or therapeutic intervention is perfect for everyone. So when I say, okay, I do a lot of DBT, that's just kind of, what I've kind of fallen into and what's been passion for me. But it can be incorporated in ways that I think fits the unique individual. So you can find and pull different parts of the skills that feel useful for you. And again, I don't know everything. I'm constantly learning, ever learning. It is a process, but I hope that learning more about these skills, what it means to be mindful, what it means to even think dialectically, that is something I did not mention in the beginning. So dialectical behavior therapy. Dialectical. The teens that I work with always say diabolical behavior therapy, which is fine. I mean, dialectical, what does that mean? So when we're talking about DBT therapy, we're really thinking about dialectics in the sense that we're shifting our perspective. So many of us, especially those that struggle with emotion dysregulation, depression, anxiety, behavioral issues, we very much start to operate in a black and white kind of way. I mean, we feel very extreme emotions. We rise and we fall. We rise and we crash. It's this very much like either or. You're either doing well and everything is wonderful, or life is crashing down and you don't know if you want to be alive anymore. So we're learning with this concept of dialectics that two opposing things can both be true at once. Two opposing concepts, two opposing emotions. It's not black or white. A human being, typically, or I would say probably always, is neither all good nor all bad. They are both. Good, bad, opposite concepts. We are both and. We are both good and bad. We have both wonderful parts and really difficult parts. We can both love someone deeply and also somehow hate them at the same time. We can experience utter pain and suffering in losing someone we love, let's say to cancer, and also at the same time experience relief, that they are no longer suffering. So it's about shifting our perspective away from all or nothing, either or, to this both and kind of way of understanding things. So dialectical in dialectical behavior therapy, it gives us this overarching picture of, oh, I'm trying to kind of shift my whole way of understanding myself and the world and my relationships to allow room for the complexity of what it means to be a person, because it is a complicated experience. It is overwhelming and confusing, and sometimes, I don't know, it's hard to explain what it's like to be a person. So we're learning to shift our perspective, and to me that's such a beautiful thing that we're capable of changing our perspective. So again, I just wanted to kind of start to introduce these DBT skills to just get you familiar, partly to get you familiar. Also though, I think because this is my channel and this is kind of my personal experience, starting to kind of open up about how they help me. It is so easy to just pick up the phone and scroll endlessly. It takes a lot more effort to be mindful, to observe our experiences, to be an active participant in what's happening in front of us. I need those skills too. And by teaching them, by talking about them, it reinforces it for me, which is a beautiful thing, because then it's easier for me to apply them. So for those that have watched or are watching, come on this path with me. DBT, yoga, mental health, the chaos of just being Laura. This is it, right? It's all about learning together. And again, I think DBT and yoga go hand in hand. So I'm hoping to kind of incorporate some of these mindfulness skills and let you experience what that looks like to apply observing and describing and participating through breathing and movement and practicing yoga. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful combination. So I appreciate you. Thanks for listening. Peace.